feature presentation. So we'll so we have, I think a very important feature presentation today. We have followed with I think a lot of concern what's been going on at the CA. I think this has been starting all the way back to 2021, how I would say the establishment, if supported by Howard Hughes Corporation, has been much more aggressive in their attempt at just co-opting this HOA, quite frankly. They did it before when Ken Ullman was county executive. They helped elect, they elected their candidates, and those candidates, I think, did a great job of giving Ken Ullman and the developer allies what they wanted at that time, and it worked out well for them. So they thought that they would do it again in 2021, and they went to their playbook of using race and diversity and equity and the lack thereof as a reason as a pretext to advance their candidates. They were almost successful, and lucky for the community, they weren't. But they didn't rest, because a lot of money's at stake, and so they're at it again, and this time it's to they used their previous the ex-CEO as a vehicle to raise to create a lot of chaos, I would say, in the CA board, and that has riled some people up, the establishment. But lucky for us, I think a lot of this I think this credit goes to Jake Burdett. I think the fact that he was able to start contacting a lot of the incumbents, and Jake, I'll let you chime in here, but the fact that he was able to contact a lot of the incumbents and get them get their thoughts and organize, and being able to recruit new candidates. There seems to be hope that I think there's hope that the CA might continue to work for the HOA dues payer. So and kudos to those who decided to jump into this race. I haven't been involved with many of them, but I like just to point out just one person as an example. I just want to give kudos to Karen, who's jumped into this really head on, and took this challenge by the reins, and same with Francis and Kat. I think they care for their community. Everyone here cares for, your community. You want to make sure that, it continues to be in our control, not, some, corporate interest control. So thank you all for being here. So I just want to give Jake a chance to say a few words, and then I'll explain, and then I'll hand it over to Claudia. But Jake.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry. And as somebody who actually doesn't even live in Columbia, I actually live in Elk Ridge. I guess my interest in these races, the last couple of years, learning about the developer influence in our local government with our county executive, with our county council, but really seeing 2 years ago with the Rouse project, an unprecedented attempt by Howard Hughes Corporation, Kimco, and other downtown Columbia business interests, flooding the CA races with an unprecedented amount of, at least hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to get their developer-friendly candidates in to the CA, not just regular political elections now, but this is now happening in the CA, where there is no campaign finance transparency requirements, no campaign finance regulations, despite Delegate Jen Terras's best efforts. Hopefully we can get that in the future. But that happened 2 years ago. And then luckily the Rouse project was unsuccessful. The community saw through it, but I knew that the developers in the downtown Columbia business interest, they're not going to give up. They're going to come back for round 2 or round 3. And in my opinion, instead of the Rouse project, a big group like that, the new form of the Rouse project, and the way that the developers have been able to push their narrative is using former CA President Lakey Boyd as a conduit, and making all of these just false claims about her being, some sort of champion for equity and racial justice in the underprivileged, which was very similar to what they were saying about the Rouse project. And so the more I dug into the details there of sort of what was really going on, through, looking at various documents, contracts that Columbia residents were able to obtain through the Maryland HOA Act, I just realized that, we have to do something. We've got to get grassroots people to step up and run and defeat this oncoming tidal wave of developer and corporate funded candidates that's coming this April. And so I just want to say thank you to every single candidate on here who, whether it's your first time running for something or if you've run before in the past, it's never easy to do, especially seeing the treatment that a lot of the grassroots incumbents are receiving. So it's a huge thing stepping up to run, especially for an unpaid position. You're sacrificing time with your friends, your family, etc. So all the candidates, definitely give them a pat on the back, and thank you to everybody who is not a candidate but is going to knock doors and otherwise support the candidates, because this is the only way that we can take down these billion-dollar corporations with basically no restrictions on their behavior, is just, pounding the pavement, boots on the ground, knocking doors, getting our popular message out. So thank you, Hiri and PDHC and everybody else who helped host this event for the grassroots candidates. And I'll put I just put a blog exposing a lot of this stuff about Lakey Boyd, the former CA president, in the HOCO Watchdogs blog. So I'll put that in the chat here, as well as links to those 2 PDHC petitions here he was mentioning earlier. But thanks.
Thanks, Jake. So this forum is going to be moderated by Claudia. She's the PDHC vice president, before I think Claudia, you might mention this too, but I just want to make sure that it was mentioned. Well, actually, I'll let you mention that. So thanks, Claudia, for willing to moderate the forum. And what I was going to ask was to talk about how we would be able to clip some of these videos of each candidate speaking so that they can use it after the meeting. So you can describe that a little bit more. So without further ado, Claudia.
Thank you. Thank you, Harry. And good evening, everyone. Thank you, PDHC members and community members for attending tonight. And thank you very much, candidates, for attending tonight so that we can hear what your positions are. My name is Claudia Koenig. As Hury said, I'm the vice president and I will moderate. I believe there are 9 of you seeking election on the platform tonight. So the timing isn't horribly compressed, but it's not too generous either. So I will ask each candidate to take a minute to introduce himself or herself. And once finished, I will ask each candidate then a question or two. And thereafter, hopefully we have some time for questions from the rest of the community that they can ask you. I apologize in advance if I see that you're taking a little bit long to respond, and I may come in and interrupt you gently and say, please wrap it up. I'm not trying to be rude. So I will start with the Columbia Association Board candidates, and then proceed to the Village Board candidates. Does anybody have any questions? And as Hury said, hopefully we can piece together your videos and what you state so that you can post them on your websites. I believe most of you have websites. And if not, you can distribute them any way you want, perhaps through email. Does anyone have any questions before we get going? No? Okay, then. So I will start with lovely Karen Emery. You're running for the Oakland Mills position on the CA board. Please introduce yourself and also explain why you're running.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So my name is Karen Emery, and I grew up in Oakland Mills. I currently live in Oakland Mills, and I'm running because, I mean, my lit says I'm running to protect our open spaces. I want to make sure that we take care of our multi-generational society. But one of the things that really galvanized me to run was all the information I got about the Protect Our Streams movement and what was going on with that. And then the more and more that I learned about what was going on with the board, and there was a need for transparency, and Ginny was stepping down. There was an opening there, and I thought, okay, I think I want to run and see if I can make a difference, because I want to make sure that everyone in our neighborhood, and by neighborhood I mean all of Oakland Mills, that when they're paying their assessments, that they know that someone is taking good care of how that money is being used. That when we're entering into contracts to use our open spaces, I've said this multiple times, when you enter into a contract for some of our open spaces like downtown, everybody who is a lien payer, an assessment payer in my village, cannot afford to go to that restaurant. So I want to make sure that when we enter into a contract, that we're getting the best deal possible if we're renting that space or leasing that space to somebody, so that Columbia Association as a whole can do a good job taking care of everyone, so that our paths, our streams, our tot lots, all of those things are protected. Thanks, Claudia. And
Sorry,
Claudia, you're muted if you
yeah.
have a follow-up.
Thank you. So Francis Lee, you are running for the Wild Lake Columbia Association board position. Please introduce yourself and explain why you're running, please.
Okay. Hello, I'm Francis Wee, and my positions are rather a lot similar to Karen's, but I'll restate them. The first and foremost is transparency. I've been disappointed to find out about things that, that the previous executive had done, contracts that had been signed that we had never heard of, that no one had been given a voice on. And that's something that I would like to see more of, is transparency and letting people know what CA is doing with their assessment money. But the other is, yeah, also about the money, I guess. The contracts that they sign, which the board needs to approve, I have need to be good for the community. The streams one that Karen talked about, for example, is opposed by the Army Corps of Engineers and other experts, and yet there some people still want to go forward with it. So I would like to investigate that more from the board. Thank you.
Sorry, I lost the picture for a second. Thank you so much, Francis. Next, from Hickory Ridge, Mr. England, I think you're an incumbent, right? And you're running again?
Yes, I am. Yeah, so I'm running to continue to do the work I've been doing. I've been in the past, before becoming a board member. Well, let me just start from the beginning. I live in Hickory Ridge for what, 35 years. Lived in Columbia. This year's anniversary, 50 years. So definitely a Columbian. And I ran the board last year. I was one, obviously, and we worked on a number of different issues. But the things that are really I'd like to finish up on, especially with the HOCO by design, are going to soon start looking at Columbia and changing the zoning. So that's something I've been really working with at the Howard County Citizens Association, Newtown Committee, and we came out with all the documents we need to really push that forward. But there's also in the CA have done many different studies that have been ignored. And one of them was a really comprehensive study on Columbia Newtown and the zoning, and with lots of recommendations to take a position. So I want to see the CA take a position and really advocate for Columbia and keeping us a planned community. They've also got an open space plan in 2017, which has basically been ignored. They had a matrix there to update the Columbia watershed plan. It said it should have been updated 5 years ago. So now we've got a Columbia watershed plan that's 2009. And of course, we've had many of these. There's now the issues to do with cloudbursts and things like this. So this plan is woefully inadequate and really needs to be updated. We need to take a fresher look at how we look at our open space. We've got to be much more environmentally friendly. As Karen said, we need to protect our open space. We need to rethink it. And I was really thrilled that this year that we managed to get the open space people to do a project in Oakland Mills where they're going to reimagine how we have tot lots to include all people. So I just want to continue on with this work. I'm just sort of passionate about Columbia. I think it's really important. We're lucky to have my family here, and we want to continue to pass this on to the next generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Eric Greenberg, you are an incumbent also and running for River Hill Columbia Association member board.
Yes, and I'm also currently the chair of the board of directors of the Columbia Association.
That's right.
And I know there's a fair number of directors on this call, so I'd like to thank all of you guys for. It's been a tough year, but I'd like to thank all you guys for sticking with it and pushing through. It's been quite an adventure, and I thank you all. And I especially like to thank Ginny Thomas, the vice chair, for basically keeping me sane this year. So thank you, Ginny. So yes, I'm the current board chair, and I'm a resident of River Hill for 5 years. So I'm relatively a newcomer, ironically, to Columbia. But I see right now, this is a great opportunity to really move Columbia forward and move CA forward. And my goals are really to protect the lien holders and making sure that our annual charge dollars are going to support the people that pay the annual charge. So again, as Brian mentioned, I'm really excited about having a new vision for tot lots. I've got a 4-year-old son, and yes, he likes maybe some of the young tot lots for younger kids, but eventually he's going to grow up and he's going to want to use tot lots that are more suitable for older kids when he grows up. So I'm really excited about that plan. Again, I also want to make sure that our pools are open and accessible. And lastly, we need to protect our open space. That's key. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to the village board members who are, or with the village board candidates now, to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and explain why they're running. So Mr. Combs, Mark Combs, you are running for the River Hill Village Board. Can you explain why and introduce yourself?
Yes, well, one of my neighbors spoke to me about running, knowing that I've lived in River Hill when it first opened in 1994, moved into the area, and I've seen it develop into what it is. I have been very active in the community as a coach through my kids growing up in the area. So I've met a lot of neighbors throughout the community and their families from doing that. But my girls are now grown and out of the house, and the time is a good time for me to get involved with the community to give back. And one of the first things that was brought to my attention was the idea of the village center being redeveloped in a way that the community would not necessarily be fond of. And I think most people that I've spoken to in the community feel that the village center is very wonderful the way it is, and maybe a new restaurant or a little something here and there is nice to see, but the idea of overdevelopment and bringing whether it be apartments or condos into the village center, it just doesn't seem like it would fit. And of course, the pools, the pathways, we have a dog. So my wife and I walk our dog, all the time. A lot of people we've met through the neighborhood are on the pathways. We want to make sure that those continue to be taken care of and improved. And that's, like Eric was saying too, I'm interested in seeing the tot lots be, evaluated for, whether they're for young children or children a little bit older. And so, yes, those are the things I support. And lastly, I live close to Route 32. And in speaking to, the county council member and through the county council member to our state representatives, I would like to see, a push to get the sound barrier done at Route 32. And I think most of the people I spoke to in the community feel strongly about that as well. So that is a couple of the things that I would be pushing for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mickelberg, you are also running for village position at River Hill. Can you introduce yourself and explain why you're running?
Sure, thank you. So I've been a River Hill resident since 1994. I've had 3 sons that have gone through the school system here. So I've got a lot invested in the community. I will say that I do offer transparency. Done that through my career in hospital management. I am independent. I have no developer or corporate kind of backing, and I think that's important for a community race like this. I'm retired now. It's time for me to give back to the community and to bring the community's issues to the association board. I do believe that advocating can make a difference. And similar to Mark, I have a focus on quality of life in River Hills, specifically the pathways, the pools, the playgrounds, looking at condition of bridges, looking at tot lot remakes. We need more sort of a broader scope and more age appropriate kinds of equipment at these tot lots. I think we can do a lot with them, as Eric had said. So this is a first time for me entering any office here, and I'm excited about it.
That's great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Percy Lee, you are running for Owen Brown, the village position there. Can you tell us about yourself and why you're running?
Yes, can you hear me? Okay. My name's Persephone. I go by Percy, and I have been living in Owen Brown for 10 years in August. So, I actually 11 years in August. And I have 5 children I've been raising, going all the way up to high school. So, I met Jake and Miss Karen at a party, and I was just wanting to find out what my annual charge covered and what my, what exactly, the CA umbrella, what that meant. And just I'm learning that this is all kind of new to me. I feel like a little out of my league, but with you guys, because I feel very honored to be part of a team that is for such good for the community and for the environment that, the open spaces and the pools. We use all of these things. We have the gym membership that we love to take advantage of, all the tennis courts and the ice skating rink. And I mean, we do it all. So I just really am trying to be for the good, for the greater good of the community, of the environment, and for the future generations to come. So same with the rivers and the streams and the lakes and the village centers. It's very important to me that it's the livability in Columbia remains I'm looking for a specific word, but for everybody. I have my husband coaches football for the Terps, and he's a head coach this year for the 7U. He's very proud of being part of the community as well. So we're looking at it as like the up and coming. We want to, I had no idea the type of corruption that I've been learning about, and I would like to be a part of like a stop to that, or the good cause of fixing things or getting the right people in there for the future. So that's all. I just want to do my little part, and I haven't worked for a while, so it's something I'm doing for myself, if you will, and the kids are really, I think, proud of me and looking up to me like, mom's doing something. So it feels good, and I'm happy to be doing it. I'll do my best.
That's great. Thank you, Percy. Dr. Jared Ball, you're running for the Hickory Ridge Village Board. Can you introduce yourself and explain why you're running?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jared Ball. I have been in Hickory Ridge since 2008 and in Columbia since 1975. We've raised our 2 daughters here, my wife and I, that is. And similar to those who have already spoken, I was invited by Jake to participate. Once it was made clear a certain level of interest in making change was made known on my part, having seen over the last few years and started to learn more about how things around here work and becoming more aware of the problems that I have with them. I just wanted to get more involved. Professionally, I'm a professor of Africana and Media Studies at Morgan State University. And have had a long, maybe 20, 25-year career of sorts in grassroots politics and activism, admittedly most of that in Washington, D.C. or nationally speaking. But also, like others have said, the older I've gotten, the little bit more time that I've had, and more of an interest in trying to act locally to address some of the issues that I see playing out here that unfortunately mirror too much of what's happening nationally, and that I am more familiar
Awesome
with.
work.
So as I make full use with my family of every amenity in this area and have enjoyed them, I've also seen that it's become a little more difficult for people like me and who are of a similar race or class background to enjoy what Columbia has had to offer. So having grown up in East Columbia in Long Reach, in what I used to jokingly refer to as suburban Section 8, and now living in Hickory Ridge, I think I've experienced all that Columbia has to offer. I've seen it from a variety of perspectives. And I look forward to working with others to continue to defend open space, to defend our sovereignty as a community. I'm certainly not backed by any corporate interest. My entire career, academically, journalistically, in terms of an activist, has been about community sovereignty, about unearthing the inequities in society and making them plain, and offering data and analysis to support that, and then working with activists and other grassroots organizers to act on that data and that information to make the world a little bit better. So I look forward to bringing that kind of effort and energy to my local community here and working with you all in that process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Paul.
And by
Mr.
the way, please call me Jared. I keep forgetting
Jared?
to say that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Chris Smith, if you could introduce yourself and explain why you are running for also the Hickory Ridge Village Board.
Sure. My name is Chris Smith. I grew up in Catonsville, but have lived in Columbia with my wife and two sons since 2006 in Hickory Ridge. And I've worked in DC for progressive nonprofits since graduating from American University. I just retired from the National Electrical Benefit Fund, which is the pension fund for IBW. And so I have more time on my hands, and I'm interested in getting involved at the local level. I also met Jake through Progressive Maryland. I have a friend who works for Progressive Maryland, and I went to their annual conference last month. And so he talked about the opportunities here in Hickory Ridge for candidates to run and talk about the issues that, so many people have mentioned. I'm particularly concerned about the Hickory Ridge Village Center, where Kimco plans to put up, or still put up, a monstrosity of 230 plus, I believe, apartments in a congested area already. And despite the fact that a referendum showed that 90% of the residents opposed Kimco's plan, they still went forward. That was rejected, but it's still in process. And I hope to be able to, if I'm elected, to help fight that and continue to make sure that corporate power does not reign here in Columbia. Just one last note. I worked as a researcher for Amalgamated Bank and the CWA on corporate governance and shareholder advocacy. And so I've studied corporations at the national level do exactly what Kimco is doing. And so they have the same playbook, and I hope to join with other activists in Hickory Ridge and Columbia and address these issues and really make sure that the vision of Columbia is upheld. Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. All right, and finally, but not least, Mr. Inglis, Bill Inglis, why don't you introduce yourself and explain why you are running also for the Hickory Ridge Village Board, please.
Hello, everybody. And first of all, I want to thank Huri and Jake for you opening your homes up to us and having that meeting. And then Jake is just amazing. He's tireless, and everybody else who's a member of this club, because we're all on the same page with fighting corruption. I got involved initially. I I've run for various things in the past, like my local homeowner association board, but what really infuriated me was finding out that Kimco was going to put 200, the same thing Chris just talked about, 230 apartments in the parking lot of a Giant. And my first reaction is, where the heck are they going to put those places? And then I find out about this 5-story monstrosity, which is going to have another ingress and egress on Cedar Lane. And I just got incensed by the fact that 89.9% in that referendum. The village board in 2017 sent everyone in the community a questionnaire. What do you think about this? Do you want it? Do you don't want it? Do you want apartments? Do you don't want apartments, etc.? 89.9% of them said we don't want this, and it got approved anyway. And the worst part about this isn't even the fact that these developers will steamroll people and bully us. The worst part about it is that anybody who stands in their way, they accuse of being racist. They end up taking legitimate societal concerns, which are grievous. And what they do is they end up using that to the point where it to completely debases the issue. So that when there's genuine racism that needs to be stood up against and fought, people are like, well, is this really a case of a problem, or is this a developer manipulating me again? And they tear our community of their, like, for example, Deb Young, who we all love to death. She's one of the real characters of integrity on the Howard County Council. They came to her and said, after they got an approval for 6,000 apartments in Columbia. She said, well, listen, you're going to have to pay your fair share of taxes. Your tax rate is way lower than the surrounding jurisdictions. And because of these additional people mean additional monies we're going to need for schools and infrastructure. And they said, if you vote for that tax increase, we're going to find somebody to vote against you. We're going to get you kicked out of your office. And they found this guy. We all know who he is. And they spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. My honest opinion and her opinion is she would have probably been defeated by this corrupt machine if it wasn't for Howard County watchdogs and progressive Democrats. So we have to stand up to this. I love what Jake's doing with the Howard County watchdogs and everybody else who participates. If you don't have a subscription to that, please get it. That's the only true mouthpiece for news in the county right now. And secondly, I'm asking to be reelected. I'm currently the chair of the Hickory Ridge Village Board. And if I'm reelected, I'm going to continue. We voted money to have people stand up, we voted money for an attorney to help stand up for this corruption. And one of the things that I'm encouraging all of you to vote for the Columbia Board of Directors that is so super important is that they are running another scam where they are selling environmental easements to corporations for pennies on the dollar. And then these corporations use these, like WSSI, will then sell them to developers so they can further despoil our environment. So in other words, they take an excavator to open space and completely demolish it, make it so that the wildlife can't even inhabit the place. And then they get a huge environmental credit of millions of dollars for this. And I know I need to wrap things up, but I can't even touch the tip of the iceberg. But another local political leader told me recently, and I'm not going to mention this person's name because they may or may not want it known publicly, but it's supposedly in Annapolis, we are considered to be the most corrupt county in Maryland. And we need to stand up to these people. And last thing I do want to say, I'm not against development. I want to see people of color, people of every background. I'm from a mixed ethnicity household myself. I want to see the equity in these communities accrue to the residents. I don't want these apartments are nothing more than drywall cages. And they stuff people in there and they give them vouchers. And then all of the equity accrues to the corporation. I want rent control in this area. I want these companies to not be able to have 20% rent increases per year, which is what they're doing downtown. And I want to see this thing turn into a situation where the equity goes to the people in our community, where we help close the wealth disparity between various demographics. And we do that by making them homeowners, not by sticking them in cardboard cages. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we have about 20 minutes left. And we can take questions from the community, or I can quickly go around and ask one specific question dealing with each of your opponents. I believe a lot of you have opponents. So perhaps I'll do that in a brief statement. Karen, tell us what distinguishes you from your opponent. You're muted, Karen.
Thank you, Claudia. So what I was saying is, I am an issues-oriented candidate. I am all about the issues. I think that my opponent talks in platitudes, and actually Bill Inglis in his introduction, he touched on a lot of that. She claims that she's for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but she is a defender of the Rouse Project. I am not. You know, she ran for state delegate. So Amy ran for state delegate in 2022, and she did not win. In that election, she took close to $1,000 for from registered lobbyists for the Howard Hughes Corporation for her campaign. Some people think that's not a lot of money. And somebody actually reached out to me today to say, you know, you should stop saying these things about Amy. And I said, well, the truth is not a smear. The truth is the truth. And they said $1,000 wasn't much. And even though she's using signs from that campaign and the website, she's being frugal. And my answer was, if Greg Fitchett gives you $250 and a resident doesn't give you any money, and both of them leave you a message, who are you going to call back? I don't have to think about that. I'm going to call the resident back every single time, because the residents are my special interest. That's who I'm looking out for, right? So I think that that does distinguish us from one another. Again, I'm going to fight for everybody. I'm going to ask the hard questions. So I don't know Amy that well. I'm sure she's a perfectly nice person if you met her on the street, but I'm going to ask really, really hard questions if I'm on the board. I'm going to ask to see information before I take a vote. I'm going to, you know, I want to know who has weighed on. If we're going to change our watershed policy, I want to know why. I want to know what the research was that's making us make that change. What went into this? Why are we making this change? Who has weighed in on it? What did the Chesapeake Bay Foundation? Do we get a senior scientist from the Chesapeake Bay Foundation to talk about whether or not this is a good decision? Those types of things. I want to know. I want residents to know what's going on. I'm going to demand public hearings. I want to, if we're going to, you know, if we're going to reach a settlement, you know, Ginny has talked about this before. If you're going to get a settlement for Symphony of Lights, I want to know, you know, what residents think about it. You know, I want to know what residents think about leasing the property in front of where Clyde's used to be. I want the residents to know that they have an opportunity to speak up. So it's all about transparency, and it's not about platitudes. It's about real feet on the ground, sleeves rolled up, doing the hard work of making sure that the residents are kept whole, so that when they walk out their doors, they have a lovely path to walk on. Their kids have a tot lot. And, you know, like one of the things that I do love, and I think Brian brought it up first, Oakland Mills has been chosen as the pilot for what they're calling reimagining our tot lots. And so what Bill McCormick, who's on the Oakland Mills Village Board, would like to do is pull the residents into our various spaces, have them look at the space, talk about the space, have them have input into what we're going to do with these tot lots. Here in Thunder Hill, every single one of our tot lots gets used, right? So I want the residents to have a say in what's going to happen with those tot lots. So at the end of the day, they feel like they had a chance to give input, and that everybody's not going to get exactly what they want, but what they're going to get something that's going to work for everybody, right? And I think that could be a model for going forward on how the CA board operates.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Francis.
Hi.
How about if you distinguish yourself from your opponent?
Yes. So my opponent, Bill Santos, is the incumbent in Wild Lake. He has a lot more experience than I do. I'll say that. He has experience with zoning. He has a lot of experience approving projects. And I would say maybe some of those projects should not have been approved. See, sorry,
So would you want more information on before approving those projects? Would that
Yes.
stand?
Yeah, I would want to hear more. I would want the executive to make sure that everyone's interests are being represented. I'm not, I have a lot of experience as an outsider, as an activist. And I talk to people in my community. I talk to lots of different groups. And I would be, the people I don't talk to very much is, developers.
Great. Thank you. Eric. Are you running unopposed or do you have opposition? Mr.
No, I got opposition.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, my opponent is Dipper Wetstein. And actually, ironically, we both served together on the village board 2 years ago before I joined the CA board. And ironically, I don't know much about him because after about 2 or 3 meetings, he dropped off the village board. So I didn't actually get to work with him that long on the village board. And I think this is where it really comes down to the difference is really dedication. So one thing over the past year, I mean, it's being on the CA board is a lot of work. And this last year was certainly very trying for everyone on the board. And to be successful and to be able to have impact, you have to have dedication. And you can't just show up and then decide a couple of weeks later, and I'll just quit. That's not how you make impact. It's about dedication. And I'm proud to serve River Hill, and that's my main goal is to look out for the residents of River Hill and all of Columbia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. England, are you running unopposed? I think you have.
I'm running against Sky Anderson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how do you distinguish yourself?
Well, there's a really big difference is that I've really lived in Columbia and been on many boards. I really understand Columbia and being on the HCCA board for 15 years, being on various committees, the committee that looked into why the hospital was going code red many times and people were being shipped out of county to hospitals, that committee, and then the Newtown committee. That's totally different to Sky. Sky is really totally about process. I don't think I've ever actually heard an idea come from Sky. Sky, it will make sure that you follow Robert's rules to the dotting all your I's. I know someone that knows about that, right, Bill? And so, yeah, which is good. It's good to have a parliamentarian on the board, but not one that actually gets to vote or anything. Maybe good to just keep people in order. Maybe that's good, but that doesn't get things done, and that's what I've done. I've done all sorts of things in the community. I think one of my proudest ones was working really hard and getting the movie Columbia at 50, A Bridge to the Future done, as the executive director of that. And very few independent films get designed and ready in 9 months, and that's what happened, and it was very successful. So I'm very proud of that. But that's the type of thing I like to do, is get things done, and that's my big difference.
Thank you. All right, so now on to the village board. So most of you are running against another slate. Mr. Combs, what distinguishes your slate from the opposing slate?
Well, to be honest, I can't speak intelligently about what the other slate is saying. I don't know them well enough to know what they're saying, but I know that Mo and Robert and myself have the same ideas for what we want for the River Hill Village. And one of the things that I've noticed for myself, when I'm out there, knocking on doors and talking to people, I don't know everybody in River Hill, but I've lived here for 28 years and I've met a lot of people. And in doing that, I know people that live in a lot of different parts of the community. So when I'm knocking on doors, a lot of times I can say to people, hey, do you know Joe and Trish that live across the street? And typically they will say yes. And I can say to them, well, they know me, and ask them what they think about me. I'm an honest, straight shooter. I'm fair, and everybody's talked about transparency, and that's what I want to bring. So yeah, I try to ask people to say, hey, if you know somebody that knows me, ask them what they think of me, and I think they will tell you that I'm a fair, honest, good guy. So
Great, thank you.
thanks.
Mr.
Mecklenburg. How do you,
Okay, yes.
Mr. Combs?
I'm with Mark. Mark, Mo, and I think will be a really strong advocating team for this community. So I don't know my opponents. I've not heard their position on things. My position is, and Mark's probably said this, is all about protecting our open space. And a similar theme to what Bill was talking about, protecting our village center. I think traffic is becoming more problematic, especially around the 108 area. There's continued development there. There'll be an Erickson senior facility going up there in the future, and it's going to just be real busy. So adding as an activity center, I worry about adding like Bill was saying, 230 apartments, which seems to be what the theme is. I have strong experience in team leadership and working with diverse populations, getting things done in very bureaucratic organizations. Worked at the NIH for 15 years, and I got stuff done. So I think that we have a diverse and strong team to represent the community.
Great, thank you very much. Jared, how do you distinguish yourselves from your opposing slate?
Well, similar to what others have said, I mean, I don't profess to know as much as some of my colleagues about our opposing slate. I'm relatively a newcomer to these kinds of local politics, but I am certain that one area that would distinguish me and us from the others is a defense against of the village center against Kimco development. Or at least the defense of the community's right to be involved in deciding what happens and who benefits. And I don't remember the details of everybody who spoke at our event last night, but I can't imagine that anybody has lived in Columbia longer than I have, has lived on either end of the economic and racialized spectrum than I have. I can't imagine that anybody has been more dedicated and involved in grassroots politics and community activism, albeit not, at least not, notwithstanding the fact that it hasn't included local electoral politics here in Columbia. And I am positive that nobody will out-left political me. So I'm sure that those are just a few areas in which I will distinguish myself and help my slate distinguish ourselves.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Smith, how would you distinguish yourself or your slate?
Well, just a little context. We have 5 seats on the village board, and there are 9 candidates. And the slate I'm running on with Bill and Jared, I think one of our key issues, as you probably detected, is the Kimco Center. I only live a half a mile from the Kimco Center. And there was a candidate, an incumbent pro-development candidate who, in one of his statements, and I think he reinforced it last night when we had a village forum, said that somehow because 3 of the incumbents on the board opposed the Kimco plan as originally put forward, that somehow that represented an attempt of exclusivity, that they were excluding other people, other residents who had different views. And it just seems like a preposterous attempt to develop a smokescreen, as people have referenced here. When corporations can't defend their actions and plans in a transparent way, they have to go around the back door and talk about their plans promote inclusivity and diversity, et cetera, et cetera. Otherwise, I didn't hear any of the candidates, pro-development candidates last night talk about why they could defend 90% of the community voting against the plan. They couldn't defend why the original plan violated zoning regulations. And they just couldn't address the common sense question is, how are you going to add 230 units and parking to a shopping center that is right on the corner of Cedar Lane and Freetown Road, which is already very congested. And so they can't, so they have to go through the back door. And I think if I'm elected, I think I have colleagues who have committed to stop that and to just generally work to make sure that the voice of Hickory Ridge is heard. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Inglis,
Yeah.
do you have anything to add to your?
Yes, just briefly. I don't really have anything negative to say about the people on the other slate. I can't fathom their reasons. One of my favorite quotes is, even a good Lord himself doesn't propose to judge a person till after they're dead. So what are their motives? I really have no idea. I think some of them are misinformed. I think some of them might be careerists. I think some of them understand that if you go along with the status quo, it's going to benefit you financially. I have no idea why they're doing it. Some of them are well-intentioned and confused, would be my assessment. However, I can tell you that if you vote for Jared and Chris and Christina Mari, who couldn't be here tonight, and James Blackwood, who also couldn't be here tonight, that I feel very comfortable with those four people. I feel we are all going to stand up for your community. And, you know, Jared showed us something the first time I met him in our last meeting, where he showed the photograph of the management of Kimco. It was 15 people, and I didn't see a person of color in the whole group. And when I looked at that, and then I hear this Howard Hughes Corporation boasting that they've got, quote, Columbia in their back pocket, unquote, it tells you it's time for a change. And I can tell you, myself and the four people running on my slate are going to stand up to that, and we're going to represent the community.
Sounds wonderful. You all sound wonderful. So thank you very much. I think Persephone dropped off. So I think that might be it for the candidates. Does anybody have any quick questions for these lovely people who are running?
I'm sorry to jump in if I can, but what I just put in the chat, I think speaks to something that we should be aware of. There were very slick and sort of sideways attempts at addressing what Chris laid out, and I think we'll speak to the approach that at least some of our opponents will try to use coming up. But Hannon was impressive in as much as I don't agree with what he was arguing. He was slick.
And Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but that talking point that Chris Hannon is saying, or that Steve Hannon was saying, that the village board has no say or influence over what happens with the village center. That's not actually true, right? I mean, you guys have been pushing to, this village center redevelopment in Hickory Ridge, it's still in ongoing litigation. And so, you all are trying to push the village to get more involved with the litigation, right? And that would have an effect on the village center potentially.
That is absolutely correct, Jake. This is one of the reasons I think turnout was much lower in the last election than it was 2 years ago. A lot of people think the issue was decided when the county council voted 3-2 against it. However, initially that parcel had no residential zoning whatsoever. And the Columbia Association basically told the Howard Hughes Corporation, we will defer to the community. And if you can get the village board to vote in your favor, we will conceivably change the covenants on that property. There are other legal issues involved. We just agreed to have our lawyers support Alan Schwartz, who's another leader in the community. He's single-handedly rounded up hundreds of community people to express their concern about this project. And we are supporting Alan legally in a court brief, which still hasn't been decided. So this issue, they've been doing this for 7 years. My honest opinion is that that project, whatever format it would have taken, would be done now if they had just reached out to the community first. But they're choosing to bully us and bulldozer over us. And we are far from being finished. We have a very instrumental part in what happens going forward. Please don't let them fool you.
Thank you. Well, like Jake said in an earlier chat, you know, we're very thankful that you all are running because you are very involved, you're very passionate, you're very committed, and that's what we need. And we need people like that, and we need people who listen to residents. So thank you very, very much.
And thank you for moderating tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Claudia. Good job.
Yeah, second, third, fourth, that, thank you, Claudia. This was thank you for moderating the forum. I also wanted to say thank you to the candidates for putting yourselves out there. Someone mentioned that they feel like, you know, they may not be, I'm just paraphrasing here, they may not be as perhaps as prepared as, you know, the other candidates in their race. But I think, you know, it's just willing to do the right thing, willing to listen to community members, having honest, good faith discussion, and just willing to learn. That's probably the basic things that you need to serve the community. And you don't need more than that. So I really appreciate you all for putting yourselves out there. And you know, it takes a lot of time to knock on doors, get ready, you know, prepared for forums or learn the issues. So thanks for doing that.
Hey, Hiri, it's Karen. Can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
I know that in Oakland Mills and I think in Walled Lake, and I think it might be Owen Brown too, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, mail-in ballots are coming out like within the next few days.
Yeah,
This
April
weekend,
1st.
yeah, this weekend is a big push to knock on doors. We need to bring out as many volunteers to knock on doors this weekend, to knock on doors just endlessly if possible. Just to get our literature out in front of people and all that kind of stuff. I've been calling this weekend the big push. Whoever you know, like Brian's still on the line. Brian, don't repair anybody's car unless they'll knock 100 doors for you. You know, hold their cars hostage. But we need as many people to come out as possible, your family, your friends. And I know that this is we've got a lot of folks on tonight who are candidates. But as many people as you know, if this is important to them, if they care about what's going on in Columbia, this weekend is critical. That's my plea. Thanks, Hiri.
Yeah. Claudia, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I was just going to thank Karen for that because it's true. We need as many people, boots on the ground, knocking doors, talking to people. It really works.
Yes, agreed. So with that being said, Lynn, go ahead.
Just you should announce where and when you're meeting this weekend to do this, because that's not being said.
Oh, thanks, Lynn. That's a very good point. So if you want to knock doors for me, we meet Saturday at 10 a.m. And I think the second one is at 1 p.m. We're going to meet at the pizza place that's right next to the Thunderhill Pool on Thunderhill Road. So I think the address is 5134 Thunderhill Road. And then on Sunday, you know, a lot of people go to church on Sunday, so we actually don't meet until 11 on Sunday. So I've got it blocked into 2-hour blocks. And I think the turfs are about 30 to 40 houses, depending on your stamina. Break for lunch and then go out for another 2 hours. So 10 and 1 on Saturday at the pizza place, and then 11 and 2 on Sunday. And it might be raining Saturday morning, but go out anyway. People are always impressed when you knock on doors and it's rainy and cold. And last Saturday was rainy, cold, and miserable. And then Sunday was beautiful.
Whenever I have a point, whenever if somebody gets a chance.
Okay. The Wild Lake door knocking team will be meeting at the Wild Lake Village Center on Saturday and Sunday at 11. And hope to see you there.
I threw it in the, oh, sorry.
The only thing I want to say very quickly is that one of the things we did in Hickory Ridge 2 years ago was the election committee got corporate money out of our elections, and there's a $250 limit. And I just want to make sure we don't run afoul of that, because it could disqualify a candidate. The $250 would be money spent by the candidate themselves or any like-kind contributions on the part of an individual or group. So I just want to make sure that anyone running in Hickory Ridge is aware of that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Bill. And for people, you know, if you want to knock doors in either Owen Brown or Hickory Ridge, which we're doing the first official door knocks for both of those villages. We're doing Hickory Ridge this Saturday at noon at Mad City Coffee, and a door knock this Sunday at noon at for Owen Brown at the Owen Brown Community Center. And you know, if you can't make it to, you know, one of these door knocks, but you still want to door knock on your own time, you know, please message either myself or one of the candidates so that we can at the very least make sure that you have literature that has all the candidates in the village that you want to knock in so that you can do it on your own time. River Hill, did you all have a door knock coming up?
So I'm not sure what the exact specifics are, but we've been working as a group with different individuals, kind of teaming up. Hey, you take this area, I take this area. But typically Kevin and Eric were the ones that were kind of getting the big groups together and say, hey, we're going to meet at the bagel shop or whatever. So I'm not sure on the specifics on that just yet.
And I know we have some, I've got some volunteers lined up to cover some of specific areas of River Hill that I've been assigned, so.
Okay, I'm gonna check out. Thank you, guys.
I think it's all being planned the weekend.
Yes.
Yeah. I need to leave. I want to thank everybody for arranging this meeting. I'm looking forward to seeing you Saturday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck in your race, Bill.
Appreciate it. Good. All the best to everybody here.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. We're gonna move to adjourn. So I'm gonna I move that we adjourn. Do we have a second?
My second.
Okay. Claudia seconded. Thanks, Claudia. Any discussion? Okay, so